Did you ever see videos on the longer couples are together, they start to physically favor each other? And there is researched evidence that show the longer two people are together one flesh, which is the way I'm going to put it, the longer two people are together one flesh, the more they start to become like one another and favor each other, to the point of like some couples will seem like they're siblings, and people will say this, they're like, oh, I thought you guys were like brother and sister, and like, no, we're married to each other. I think that's important, you know, to look at that, because we are made to bond for life. If you think about stages of life, there's, you know, two people are young, they meet, they fall in love, they wait till they're married, they get married, and then that bonding is brought all the more closer together through, you know, marital bliss, through sexual relations, because it's a whole own private world that's only supposed to be shared for those two people in a marriage, and it is a thing for bonding. And we know this is a thing for bonding because the first time somebody has sex, a lot of times they fall in love with whoever it is that they had sex with, and then it's a disaster if they fell in love with a person that they don't marry and that doesn't care about them because they just have sex with, you know, have had sex with a lot of people, and they're desensitized to this bonding that comes along with love. It's supposed to last a lifetime. And why? Because we're supposed to, as children, have an example of who to be. It's either a man or a woman. We need a good example of a man or a woman, a role model. And we need an example of who to find. What's a good mate? I want to marry someone like, you know, like if you have good parents or whatever. You're not trying to marry your parents. That's gross. But you're trying to find a good example of a man or a woman to be, and a good example of a man or a woman who to find for a mate. And why? So that you grow up, get married, and then you become good parents. This is so it keeps health generationally healthy. That's why it's such a big plan of forces of darkness and evil and social engineers and wealthy elite, el-ites, whose fortune shaped the fates of nations, to destroy the family unit. You can see this idea of destroying the family. It's a divide and conquer strategy. If you want to make people into controllable units, you isolate, separate them, and destroy families. Because, you know, like people who are families are willing to fight to the death to keep their families. If you have a whole country full of families, you can't go along with your evil plans because they will fail, because the whole country will stand strong against you. And if they're praying people, you have a whole country of families praying to God for help and for salvation, and the bad guys are going to lose, period. Quite simply put. So we need an example of who to be and who to find. Then we become parents, hopefully good parents and good examples, and then our children grow, and if we've been a good example for them, then that helps them find suitable mates, and then we get to become grandparents. And if you have a healthy marriage, healthy children, they grow up, become healthy parents, you become healthy grandparents, you have multiple generations of all the stages of life to see how it is to go through it. Good examples all the way through, even into old age with dignity, the wisdom that comes with, or that's supposed to come with old age. And you may even get to like high levels, like if you want to gamify life, which I don't, but you may get to like high stage of great grandparents. All right, some people get to live to be great grandparents, and you know, you would hope that the great grandparents actually are great, like good examples of someone in, you know, severe or extreme old age, or however you want to quantify it. So that's how life is supposed to go down here on earth for all the people. So you can see, you know, if you believe in evil and forces of darkness and all that stuff, obviously they want to destroy that. You want to destroy people. So that's also part of depopulation. If you want to control the slaves and the slave system you've created for people to live in, and the slaves have begun to outnumber, you know, the control mechanisms of the slave system, then you got to get those numbers down. You have to make depopulation a priority and say there's too many people and not enough resources. And even though there is enough resources, because God provides for us more than He even provides for the birds, take it away from people and get them to go along with evil and be contracted so that they go along with, like, we're going to take everything away from you and you guys can only have what we say, and then we can control you. And in some way that's some sort of a deal with the devil, whether witting or unwittingly, that we go along with these things. But you can see that there is enough for everybody, and you can also see their willful, overt destruction of resources, saying, hey, we live in a planet that's mostly water, but there's not enough water. Now we have these AI centers, and they're going to use up all your good water when they have the whole oceans to do all their AI shit with. And instead they're coming up and setting up in your town, and now the people live in a town and say, hey, we hate this AI center. We don't have water because of this AI, because they're saying AI uses water and stuff. Take it to the ocean, leave it out, keep it out of my town, that kind of stuff. And the destruction of probably now over 300 food processing plants. Not that it's the healthiest thing to eat processed food, but just destroying the facilities where the food is produced. Tyson Foods buying up the 4 largest bug breeding facilities, and them telling World Economic Forum announcing you'll live in a pod, you'll eat the bugs, you'll own nothing, and you'll love it, is a dirty threat. It's a dirty threat. They want you to make videos where they say, oh, look, here we go. Elon made a car that you can't buy. You'll own nothing. Ubisoft CEO says you don't need a game console. Jeff Bezos confirms you don't need a console. And, all the other stuff, trying to poison our blood, all these things that they're doing to us, trying to put child human sacrifice directly into our veins through human embryonic kidney cell clone strands, telling us to stay 6 feet away from each other, traumatizing the whole world, people having warm and fuzzies and nostalgias for the time when the whole world was terrified and scared and we didn't know what was going to happen next, so we were just told to stay home, and Amazon would bring stuff to us, and we can make TikTok thirst traps to people and still get feedback from other people, even though we're disconnected from everyone. The way that we connected was through a monitor, so that we can be monitored. Devices that they have that are already invented that you can put on your toilet, so that when you're done pooping, it scans your poop and tells you what's in it, and it tells you about your health. But really what that is for the future, when they're like, how'd you get meat? We said you couldn't have meat. We examine your stools, and you have to pay a monthly fee for us to analyze your stools, and you have to have that, or otherwise you can't live here. This is part of the stuff that comes along with your real ID and all the shit that they want to do to us, and it's evil. And it's really just getting us to make covenants over and over again, contracting in numerous ways, getting us to make numerous contracts with evil, with terms of service, terms of agreement. You want to live here, you want this, you want all the nice things, you want the basic things of life that God had wanted us to be able to provide for ourselves with the labor of our hands and stuff. Have it be taken away from us, put into the hands of an artificial system, have AI run everything. You want all the basic things of life that that you used to have a hand in providing for yourself. Like, it used to be a blessing when another child came into a family. Now it's too expensive. You can't bring anybody, it's too expensive, and they'll try and push it to the point where they're like, yeah, you can't afford it, hand over to the kids, we want their blood too. And we have to say no, and we have to ask God for help, because we're not going to make it without His help. But we've become too picky. You can see how we've been turned away from each other. There's all the content online through all the different social media platforms where they say men and women shouldn't trust each other, in essence, and to make each other too picky. No, this is the high quality man, this is a high quality woman, all these other things don't matter. And it sounds stupid if you're old, but if you're young, and old people get fooled by this stuff too, but if you're young, you're trying to make sense of the world, and then they made it an impossible goal of finding one of the most basic things, find a mate. Guess what? You're both stupid. Two stupid people meet up. That's most of us. And then you fall in love, and then that's a bond that's supposed to last for life, but instead we can swipe now and say, I'm going to try on a new body. I'm going to try somebody else next. This person's not tall enough. This person's not short enough. They're too fat. They're too old. This is, forget about Logan's Run where you're useless after 30. Now they're propagandizing to the young men and to the women both, I guess, really, that you're useless after 26. In China, they call them the leftover women. In the past, even some people did get married late in life, but also in the past, I would say more people got married younger in life, and they fell in love, maybe with high school, maybe right after high school. This is the past. Look into it. They're changing it. Find out now while you can before they lie to you about it even more. People used to meet when they were young and build a lifetime together, which is the whole point of a human life. Most of us are made to pair up. There's the loneliness epidemic. If you type it up, if you start to type up loneliness in a search on YouTube, you're going to get, it'll fill in the rest, loneliness epidemic. And then you'll see the top searches like loneliness epidemic, male loneliness epidemic, female loneliness epidemic. It is an epidemic. This is part of depopulation. Look at Japan. They're on the forefront. They always say Japan's 20 years ahead of the rest of the world, and they mean that in technology. I would say it's in being socially engineered and being technologically programmed. They have negative population rate. Has that changed? Are they kicking people out of Japan and breeding with each other again? Or are they just gotten too weird? They're isolated, they're divided and conquered. Yeah, they're 20 years ahead. They're 20 years ahead of the rest of the world in the way they want us to be programmed. Japan's going along with the loneliness and the isolation, and they're not getting married, and they're into weird shit with what they look at online and everything. And there's, like that's one of the things they like talk about being submissive and docile and agreeable and all these qualities that were used to be used to talk about good qualities in women. And now you can see how it's all being perverted and distorted into Japanese beta male epidemic, and the women don't want the men and the men don't want the women, and everybody's in love with cartoons and they're at home in their micro apartments jacking it to cartoons. That's what they want. That's what they want for the world, right? Live in the pot, eat the bugs, own nothing, and love it. If you own nothing and you get married to someone, you guys belong to each other. What does it say in the Bible? If you get married, it says to both the man and the woman, your body's not your own anymore, it's your spouse's. So you have to think about the person you joined your life with. It's together one flesh, literally. Which brings me back to the, couples favoring each other and stuff, and that they would, it's probably a real thing. It's a cellular information exchange when you go in raw because you're married. And we also know from the past, look at the fertility rates and all this trouble people have conceiving, the men's erectile function, the women's infertility. Look at in the past before there were hospitals and when it was considered a blessing for another child to come into the family because it would be more hands for the family farm so that everybody would eat. Look at how big the families used to be in the past. And now what's a family? China made laws on it. They said you can have one child. So now they have one hell of a ground army because for decades they were like basically breeding out women, right? So honorable number one baby girl, daughter born, they'd put her in a rice bag with a rock and throw her in the river. Women in China getting abortions into double digits, into the teens of abortions. I didn't know it was possible to have that many abortions. That's horrible. And China has one of the most, that's like, what's number one and number two? China and India, the highest populations in the world. And they said in China, communist China, you can have one kid. Now they changed that. And they're like, wow, maybe China wants China to win. And so they're like, we need women because that's how we get here. And look, it was a joke. It was a cliche about how China kills its daughters. Now we don't need ground armies anymore like we did in the past. We can send drones. Palantir, named after the crystal balls of the wizards. There was 12 Palantirs in Lord of the Rings. People think that Tolkien was a good guy. I don't think so, not so much. I think inkwells, I call them the stinkwells. You like C.S. Lewis? Maybe you shouldn't. Sorry, just saying. So, yeah, it's all about families. That's like the core of the divide and conquer strategy, is to isolate everybody, divide and conquer. Satan doesn't like families. It was an Aleister Crowley poem. Aleister Crowley was obsessed with the devil and wanted to kiss his buns all the time, and he'd spread people's cheeks and stare into the eye of Horus to divine the secrets of the universe that God didn't want us to have. There's another secret for you, Aleister. And Aleister, kissing the devil's ass, wrote a poem called The Family, Enemy Number One. or it might have been, it's either enemy number one, the family, or family enemy number one. And it was his ode to the devil about how much Aleister Crowley hated families because the devil hates families, because family that prays together stays together. And if you have a country of families that pray together to God, that's Jesus, and they know that he is God, well, that's the thing that the devil would want to destroy. That's why a lot of wars are about offering up Christians and sacrificing Christians so that there's less of them. You can have miscellaneous religions that have distortions of God, but you can't have it in clear, full form. And in fact, let's take Christianity and create the great schism and break up the church into different sects of Christianity so that they can't even agree on Jesus, how to do it. That's exactly what we need. I mean, a nation of families together. And again, how do you have a strong family without God? You can't. I mean, there's things innate with us by God that were put in us. And, you know, these are still in people of other religions. There's good things in people. These are the things of God that he put in us by design. But it all really comes together when we know that Jesus is God. And we don't turn away from that. A family that prays together, stays together is a true thing. The words to live by that have become a bumper sticker that people balk at is, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus do this thing? Okay, let's do it. Jesus wouldn't do that. Okay, don't do it. And we need families, and that's what people want. Look at how lonely they are. They just want somebody. They want the person. I hear from the Australians. They always say, I want my person, my person. All over the world, people want to pair up. And everything is done to keep people away from each other. That's what all the phone apps are about, whether it's Tinder or Grindr or whatever. Even gay people want to pair up. They want one person they can trust. They want a mate. They want somebody that they can stay with. It's a people thing. It's just about us. Like, we want somebody we can trust. If we can't trust God first and love him above all else, it becomes really hard to love our neighbor as ourselves. I'm not saying some people don't do it, but they do better at it, even if they are good at loving their neighbor as themselves, so they would love God first above all else. Now, how much more could a person like that benefit all of us? By example, if they added into the equation God too. Love God above all else. Love your neighbor as yourself. I even think that it's like, if you really want to love your neighbor as yourself, you have to love God above all else first. He teaches us how to love. And if you have a country full of people that are praying to God, the forces of darkness can't win against them. They have to be deceived. It's in the Bible too. It's in the Old Testament. Rulers talking to sorcerers about, well, how do we deceive people? We have to trick them. We have to trick them to get them to turn away from God, because they're not asking him for help, or if they mess up in a way that legally he can't help them because of what they're doing. Well, then we got them, and then we can win, and we can do evil against them. And people are lonely. They just want to pair up with somebody. And granted, not everyone is made to be part of a couple. And in the Bible, when St. Paul is saying, like, don't worry about being married, just, stay focused on God. Those who want to marry, okay, let them marry, but it'd be better if you put your focus on God. He was speaking of the times that he was living in, okay? I don't know if that applies to us today. There are some who will say, I don't want to get married. Most of those people, I think, are sour grapes. It's done out of bitterness. And, in the past, it was easier. It just was, in a lot of ways, it's a trade-off. It was easier in some ways, it was harder in some ways. But look at how big families used to be before there were hospitals. Women were, and I don't mean this in a chauvinistic way, women were by design made to bring people here. That's how we get here, is through the womb. Look at what's been done to destroy the wombs by the way that we live today. With the poison in our food, poison in our water, in our air, in our minds, in our hearts. It wasn't so in the past. Families used to be big. And again, I feel like I have to keep saying this it should be overstated. There weren't hospitals. Look at how big families were. It used to be really easy to look up on Google image search, like, big families of the past, and you would see photos. Try doing that now. They'll show you the same couple pictures of a couple really big families, and there's that French family, and then there's that Irish family and have a whole bunch of people that look like them, and then there's like the two families they show you. But it used to be way easier, like boom, here's what it used to look like in the past. Here's a whole family standing in a field on a hillside, because they had to take a picture in a certain way to get everybody in so you could see how many people two little tiny people made. Two little tiny short human Christian people made this whole huge family. And now what do we have? Broken families where some bozo goes around seeding a bunch of women, and because of the way the world is, can't take care of them. It's supposed to be one man, one woman for life. That's what it's supposed to be, not some fool going around pumping his seed into a bunch of different women and can't take none of his kid, can't take care of his kids. Doesn't even want to, doesn't try. And then there's the woman, and the children are being taken care of as wards of the state by some evil entity of the state is a ward of the welfare system taking care of the children. That's the whole point of it, is to destroy the family. The whole point of a lot of things in our life, the way that they are today, is to destroy the family and turn you away from the idea that you ever want to be one, because that's how you control people. You have them isolated and alone so that they only care about themselves. Keep them scared, keep them alone, keep them afraid, keep them distrusting of everyone else, and then you can rule them. Here, Sarah, stay in your room. Let me rule you. Fear me, and you can have all the things, and just stay in your room. That's from the movie Labyrinth from like 1986, where the Goblin King's like, just stay in your room, Sarah. Play with your things. Stay in your suspended adolescence, and you just stay in there and let me rule you, and I'll provide for you. I'll give you a universal basic income, your living stipend. Just stay alone. Stay by yourself and fear me and what I will do if you disobey me. And that has nothing to do with God. We're made. Men and women literally are made for each other. And some people get distortions of that with being gay and stuff. But even those people, they want somebody they can trust. It's like, I don't know, like a form of narcissism or something. Or like, well, it has to be somebody with my same parts. Whatever happened that made people like that. But they still want love, And look at how starved we are for love. And how we're told that we should be bitter about it and turn away from one another, and it's bullshit. It's all shit. It's BAALSH shit. And people need each other. We're made for each other. We should pair up. I mean, who cares if you have, wouldn't it be nice to have somebody and have nothing still? To pair up. One of the things, that is in the New Testament, and maybe I'm not getting it exactly the way that it's intended in the Bible. It's like, how do we know when the end is near? When people are no longer marrying and they're not eating meat anymore. And, you should not give up on love. I think people are made for each other. Wherever two or three are gathered together in prayer, know that I'm with them. Jesus told us this. Wherever two or three are gathered together in prayer, know that I'm with them. So if you have a husband and a wife and they're praying together, he's with you. But I also know how picky people can be. And I've been picky. I've had people be picky with me where, they didn't measure up for me and I didn't measure up for them. And it's sad for everybody. But we are made for this, and just because people are old doesn't mean that they shouldn't be pairing up. Just because people are too old, too young, or whatever, doesn't mean they shouldn't be pairing up with each other. The age gap thing, I did a video on that and I didn't even put it up because I thought people would argue about it. Look, no matter what, if there's an age gap between people, you can tell when one person is manipulative over the other, whether it's some young beautiful thing being manipulative of an old man that she's taking advantage of, or whether it's a dirty old man taking advantage of a young woman, or old woman taking advantage of a young man, or a young man taking advantage of an old woman. We can tell, even without discernment, you can see when one person is taking advantage of another person. And then you know that if you tell them that they're being taken advantage of, they're probably not going to listen to you anyway. That's the powerful how powerful love can be, even in a distorted way, even if, it's like we're just seeing only what we want to see, and we're not seeing how we're being deceived, because so hungry and starved are people for love that they're willing to go along with a fantasy of love because of the pretty packaging on the outside or whatever, or just out of sheer loneliness. So I guess I don't really need to make a video on it. I already did that video, and I still hold with my opinions on the video you never saw about the age gap thing. I think I'm not so much concerned with the age gap, but you can tell when somebody's taking advantage of another person, whether it's an old person taking advantage of a young person or a young person taking advantage of an old person. We know that both can be manipulative, and we also know that we can be manipulated. So, but it is a sad thing when, like somebody young is paired up with somebody old, and then they die, and then they're a widow. And what did St. Paul, and he's just an apostle, he's not God, he said it'd be better that the young widows would remarry, because if they don't, they're just going to get into trouble. And what did God tell us about marriage when the Pharisees were trying to deceive him? What about this woman? She had 7 husbands. Who's her husband in heaven? And God says, look, that doesn't matter in heaven. In heaven there's no tears, and everything makes sense to everybody, and they make you more like the angels. And look at how much God loves us. I mean, he kicked angels out of heaven because they made the wrong decision. And they get to make that bad decision one time, and then they're not getting back in. Look at us. We get to make mistakes over and over again, and when we realize we made those mistakes, we can come to him and ask for repentance. And we're we're told that we're going to judge the angels. That's pretty wild. Or exactly perfect, I guess would be a better way to put that. So whatever that means, I guess we'll have to wait until we're judging the angels, and hope that we get to. Maybe some of the angels have been judged already. I mean, God, I do believe, has settled the earth once already, and that we're probably people of Revelation 20. You can go look into that if you don't know about Revelation 20. But I do believe we're being deceived, and you can see in the past that people who always married and stayed together, and I know there's bad marriages in the past, but there's also a lot of good ones, and a healthy society has been destroyed, and we're told that we can't have that anymore, and that we shouldn't trust each other, and a lot of people are damaged goods. Does that mean that they're incapable of love, that they're incapable of redemption? Obviously not. And I think if you want help with that, you should start praying to God and work on your own redemption arc. And I do believe, that a woman that lived a life of iniquity because she did OnlyFans and she's blowing everybody, that she should never be able to have love. Again, I think that's terrible, that she has to stay a harlot forever. I don't believe that, because that means there is no redemption. Does that mean that she has to stay alone because of that? I don't think so. Then again, who wants a tired old whore that blew everybody? I know I don't. Everybody wants, right? Everybody wants chaste woman, and women probably want a chaste man or whatever. But does that mean that these people are incapable of love? I don't know. Maybe it's for two, tired old whores, a man and a woman, find each other because they've been with everybody and they know how to make a love like that work. It's not for me to say. I've been around, but I've not, whatever. Love God above all else, and then if you want to, since we're talking about love in this video, since I'm talking about it, you're listening. Who could be a better matchmaker for you than God? If you want to be with somebody, pray for a mate. I know that this is something from Black People Church, that's what they do. They're always praying for somebody, and they get caught up in fornicating and stuff, just like everybody else. It's not special. But I know that, forgive my ignorance about, Orthodox Church. They don't talk to each other about these things. But I know everybody wants mates. And what I know from hearing the testimony of Black people on YouTube videos and stuff like that is that they pray to God. I'm like, who can be a better matchmaker than God? Good advice, sound advice. All right. So from my fellow Americans, praying to God, because he knows all the women, he knows all the guys. Who could be a better matchmaker for you than God? Nobody. Period. hey, Lord, set me up for somebody, clean me up so that I'm a suitable mate, so that it works this time, right? No more fornicating, no more bad ways. Family that prays together stays together. Wherever 2 or 3 are gathered together in prayer, know that I am with them. You want God to be with you. I mean, think about that. You have a country full of husbands and wives, and they're praying to God for help. That's hard to beat. That's an army. That's an army against forces of darkness. And if you get the family and the kids praying, everybody gets to church in the sun on Sundays, in holy days or whatever, in corporate prayer, which is what church is, praying together, congregating together, and praying to God, for peace, for happy families, healthy lives, clean air, fresh water, no war. That's how you beat evil. But if evil wants to beat us, divide and conquer is the only strategy that they really need. And look at how lonely people are. So we have to pray against it. I mean, they say you can't live on love alone, but 2 people together where they both have nothing, at least if they have each other, that's something. But that's what they're telling us that we shouldn't do. We should give up on it. We're being told this. We're being programmed. They got us to do it to each other. They've got us to propagandize to one another that we should give up on love, that we shouldn't red pill, all this bullshit. Don't take pills would be my advice. And all this red flag women and high quality man, high value woman, trad wives. This is all scams. This is all propaganda. We know, look, you know that men and women were made for each other. That's how it's supposed to be. They've got us to tell each other, cause sour grapes is what I call it. Bitter wine, bitter gall. You can't trust men. Man, you can't trust the women, and here's why. And it's all broken hearts and stuff like that. And a lot of it is to do because you're doing shit that you're not supposed to be doing before you get married. And like even a woman that went around, she had sex with a bunch of guys, as she tries to clean up her act and says, I'm not doing it anymore, then the guy gets mad. He's like, wait a minute, I've seen your videos, and look at what a slut you are. You should point your ass at the camera and everything. And now I'm with you, and everybody else had to get the sample to wares for free, and now I can't. Yeah, maybe that's the way that it has to be. I mean, I don't want that, but it's a different thing when there's a real person presented before you, what you're willing to put up with. And we know this, that a lot of times people see something that's bad, whoever their mate is, whether it's a man or a woman, and they take the risk anyway for, because of love. They're like, well, I know their past is awful and everything, and they take a chance on them anyway. And people say that they won't do that, but they do this shit over and over again. What's scary to me is when I see people now just saying no. Like, it's one thing to know that you were bad in the past and just expect some man to clean up your mess. And I understand men saying no to that. I've done that. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. No thanks. I know too much about you. I'm not doing that. It's been the cause of breakups. I'm like, it's too many dudes. I'm an old guy. So I'm looking at photo albums. I'm like, wow, this is a photo album full of you and a bunch of other dudes, and you don't have any girlfriends, and this is not good for us. And then I start noticing other things and stuff she does in the sack and our fornicating, and I'm like, wow, like she really did that too easy. She didn't learn that from me. That's not part of our exploring sex and eros together. Like, you figured that out before you met me. And then the more you get to know somebody, they start telling stuff about their past, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, your past is unacceptable to me. And women can do this to men too, hearing about stuff that men did in the past, and women's like, I don't want this guy. Like, this is not the kind of guy that I want, raising my children, or this is not some guy I want to join my life with in our sterile, childless existence or whatever. But it seems like we've created, this is, more with the younger generation. Hey, this 1960s, the free love shit, that's the boomers, right? Right up until today, people have always been horny. They're doing nasty shit. Does that mean that people can't pair up and find love? No. But it does seem like nowadays, like, a lot of people are damaged goods, men and women both. Even if it's just like gooning and masturbating, I suppose it's like a lesser sin, but because you're alone, even though you're never really alone, there's demons watching you goon and probably making demons every time you have an orgasm. You're taking half of an equation that's supposed to be used to create life, and you're alone, and the demons are there. And it's probably how demons are made. This is one of my theories on, in my demonology theories. How do you make demons? Beat off. And you're probably making unclean spirits that suffer greatly right from the first. Because, you know, man and woman join together, and that's how life is created. And, you know, if you're married to somebody and it's sanctified before God, probably demons are, you know, blocked out of that. But if you're alone, you're never really alone. Demons watch you goon, whether you're male or female. And if you're making money for it, you're monetizing your, you know, like the cam girls and cam guys and all this stuff are sending dirty pictures. I mean, I had them sent to me and I was shocked. I mean, one part of me was like really turned on. I was like, wow. But then I was like, don't do this anymore. Like, I did tell her, I was like, I like this, wow, like I want to see this, but maybe don't send it to me on the phone. And I wasn't married to her, just saying, or any of them for that matter. I remember that's part of breakups. We'd have to get together and burn dirty Polaroids that we took of each other. And women having a mind like a hawk, saying, I want all of them. Like, this isn't all of them. Because women know when they look good, and they're like, they remember the dirty picture that you took of them when they looked hot. Now it's just click on the phone. It's on the phone, and Google owns it, or Facebook, or whatever. And people are giving away, like in dating profiles, women are literally pointing their asses at you, and that's the profile picture. Like, it's the first thing you see is like, here's my face, here's my ass. Is that not all that really matters? And, you know, also we're getting a trend of people being disgusted by it. One of the things I've seen in videos that I watched is that it turns out that women are getting tattoos removed because they cover themselves with tattoos. Something I've never liked. I know some guys like tattoos and they think that they're hot. And I'm like, I think they're gross. Women are getting their tattoos removed because they want to hide that they were sluts, basically. And I don't know if it even works. Does getting tattoos removed work? Is it just a scar that if you're with them, you're like, hey, wasn't there a tattoo there? Because you just look all scarred up all over your body. And a lot of they're dumb. Like, is there really any good tattoos? No, I would say the only good tattoo for somebody that really needs it would have been if they had got the WWJD over their knuckles, so that every time they use their hands, they're like, would Jesus do that? So if you're thinking about putting your hand on your piece and beating off or whatever, you would look at that, what would Jesus do? And you're like, maybe he wouldn't do that. Definitely wouldn't do that. So, and tattoos are ugly. Did you see a woman that's beautiful and then she wrecks it with the tattoos? They suck. There's not any good tattoos, period. I don't care what your opinion is. I fucking hate tattoos on women. Sorry for the expletive deleted there. I've always, it's so gross. But yeah, now women are onto it and they're like paying thousands of dollars, you know, harvesting money from men to pay them to have their whore tattoos removed. It's so sad. Or the other thing that you've seen, remember Kat Von D? She was a tattoo. That's how she became famous. She did tattoos. Now her body is black. Like, she just made her skin green, covering all the tattoos. Then Machine Gun Kelly did that too. He just like blacked them out because he had all these Satan tattoos and stuff. He's like, well, I don't know what else to do. So they just blacked too much to laser off or whatever, so they just cover it in ink. And, you know, if famous people are doing it, then, you know, the common man is doing it as too, and just getting tattoos blacked out and shit. And that's sad, because isn't getting tattooed like basically poison? Like, it's poison, right? But anyway, things we do for love. I mean, some people got tattoos because they wanted to be more attractive or whatever, and I don't know, whatever the reason is, people get tattoos. I used to sell Tattoo Flash, and then I saw somebody got one of my tattoos on them, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I hate tattoos. Like, why would I sell Tattoo Flash? I made hundreds of dollars selling Tattoo Flash. And I just stopped cold when I saw somebody got a tattoo of something I made. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is graffiti on somebody's body, and I am responsible. So now there's a Tattoo Flash wherever I sold it to, and it's out there. It probably got rotated out anyway. It probably, whatever. So, yeah, people were made for each other. We need an example of who to be and who to find for peace on earth for all mankind, and we can't have any of that without God being included as the main top part of the equation. We have access to the most advanced technology that's ever going to be available, and that's direct access to the maker and creator of all things. And it's the difference between wishes and prayers. Wishes get heard by demons, prayers go to God. So pray to God, and He knows all the women. It's mostly dudes. It's not all dudes. There's women that watch these too. I can prove it by my subscribers. So pray to God. He knows everybody. He knows who will be. Who is a better matchmaker for everyone than God? You can pray to God and ask Him to set you up with somebody. He knows who'll be good for you, and He knows the timing of it. Maybe you need to change some things. Maybe they need to change some things too. And probably, if you do meet somebody that's for you, you're probably, like everybody's a work in progress. This is a lifelong thing. We await perfection. It probably happens after death. It would have to, I guess. Who's perfect down here? Jesus is the example we're supposed to strive to, for men and women both. But we sin. It's not an excuse to continue in our sins, but what do they tell us in the videos that are filled with a lot of bullshit? If you're looking for your prince, maybe you should be more, like the kind of man a prince. I don't want to say princess because we have the MK Ultra Disney princess programming shit where it's like, what's a princess? A useless thing, just wants everything done for her and thinks that, so let the king take care of it. I'm a princess. I don't have to do anything. So if you want your king, then maybe you should behave more like a queen. If you want a good man, maybe you better be a better example of a woman, and whatever it is you're doing, you got to clean it up. And if you're a man and you're a bad example of a man, maybe you better clean it up. Maybe if you're a man and if you can sleep around, if handsome guys are watching this, maybe you should stop. 100%. We should stop. I struggle from time to time when, once every blue moon or whatever, I get that. Like, man, I just want to grab a hold of somebody, let's go. Where's somebody that's down for, sexual iniquity or whatever, without marriage. You have to, do something else. Don't get in trouble. Don't go I'm just going to look at dirty pictures of naked women or whatever alone by themselves. It's just you're stirring up lust. Or, women looking at men, whatever they do, thinking about it, reading horny romance novels. Seems to be popular nowadays. Women get weird too. And probably now more than ever. And again, nothing's new under the sun, so whatever perversions there are today, we had some version of them in the past. We don't know what the past is like because we're living right now. The Tower of Babel, who knows what stuff was pretty gross probably back then. Sodom and Gomorrah were wiped off the face of the earth. God was so pissed off with them. And the town was called Sodom. You know what I mean? Like, it was named after the act, or the act is named after the town. Either way, it's not good, right? And whatever a Gomorrah is, it must have been so ripe and so awful that we don't even know what that means anymore. It's like, okay, you destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. We know what a sodomy is. What's a Gomorrah? That's probably really nasty. It probably involves livestock or something. I don't know. But whatever that was, whatever Gomorrah used to mean as a sex act, I'm glad that's forgotten. I hope they don't reinvent it or whatever. But people were made for each other. We need an example of who to be, who to find for peace on earth and all mankind. And, if we're grown up already, we don't need an example of a role model from another person online. We're supposed to go to the Word of God and look at, the few things that we, that we know. How do I want to say this? We're supposed to look at God as an example, and the example of the things that the saints did right, and look at the example of the things that, the prophets of the Old Testament and like Solomon. Look at the things they did right, wisdom of Solomon. Look at the things that they did wrong. Look at the things they did wrong as examples of how not to be. Like when St. Peter denied God 3 times and then the cock crowed. We're not to deny God. Look at the things they did wrong, look at the things they did right, and look at the example of Jesus and strive for that. And this is for men and women, but this is for children. As soon as they're old enough to be able to start thinking that way, how good would it be if our children were thinking about God as an example, and the saints and the prophets as examples of what to do and what not to do. Like, for example, Saul, who became Paul, he watched everybody's clothes when they stoned St. Stephen, the proto-martyr. That's what they call him. And then he was a Christian hunter. And then God got through to him on the road to Damascus. He said, Saul, what are you doing? And then look at how fervent St. Paul became for our Lord. So that's a redemption arc, right? It's a pretty good one. Moses killed a man. And look at Prophet King David. There was so much blood on his hands, and the whole thing with Bathsheba, that Solomon was the one that got to build the temple. And then look at what Solomon did. He over sex, again, over a woman. He messed it up over women. They're beautiful. They're worth it. But also, be careful. Solomon, their hearts were hardened in the Old Testament. They had multiple wives. God said, I never intended that for you. One man, one woman, that's what I wanted. Your hearts were hardened. And they're, boners, hardened boners. It's a big problem. Blood flow leaving your brain going down to the member. It's caused a lot of trouble. Sorry for the coarse jesting. I'll move past it. Women like sex too. They get into a lot of trouble with it. They'll have these tingly parts, and it leads to lust. And it'd be better that we be married. And it's regret. People have these regrets that they wished they would have saved themselves for their partner, so that could be something that would be special and unique, that they had never shared it with anyone. Men, believe it or not, men have these have this desire too, where they wish they wouldn't have went and did the fornicating that they did. But women especially bear the shame, where they wish that they could have given themselves to the man that they love instead of, just giving it away or charging a fee for it. I mean, that's the thing, the woman and the vanity and narcissism and pride, thinking, I turned 18 and I'm going to start an OnlyFans, and then they don't even make $150 a month. $150 a month probably isn't even a week's groceries anymore. And not even luxurious groceries, just probably look what they're trying to do. They're trying to push us into going along with whatever it is that they want. In a world where they want people to have nothing, it would be good if people could have each other, and pray to God for help, because I do believe that He would help us. And if we had a lot of people, praying to God for help, how much better would the world be? Maybe we need to start praying not just for a mate, but praying to God for ourselves and for others. I was going to stop right there, but I forgot something that was important. It's in the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Forget us our debts that we owe that we cannot pay, as we forgive those who are indebted to us. Forgiveness. If we want to be forgiven our sins, the precondition for that, and there is one, the precondition is that we be willing to forgive others who have sinned against us, those indebted to us who cannot repay. There's two different ways that they say that. And I've talked about this before. It's probably more in my old Rumble videos. But I'm bringing it up again because I think it's important if you're still watching. Forgiveness is important. Can we forgive people? Or is the woman... I see a lot of this towards men. They say that women are the weaker sex. And yet the womb is how we get here. Men and women were made for one another. And they take it back to Eve's original sin. When Adam was alone, he didn't get into trouble. But then Eve shows up, and now they're both in trouble and get kicked out of the garden. Well, it's still Adam's fault too, because he was supposed to be in charge. He was in the garden first, and when Eve did the thing that she wasn't supposed to do with the forbidden knowledge, Adam joined her. He listened to Eve. He didn't do what God told him, which was no. What Adam should have done that he didn't do was say, God, Eve did the thing that we're not supposed to do. What do you want me to do about it? But instead she's like, here, and then he's like, okay. And they're both in trouble, and they got kicked out. That's Adam's sin. Maybe it's worse than Eve, honestly. He was here before he knew not to do that. Then Eve shows up, and then he sins. So is that, you know what I mean? So then what did God give to Adam and Eve after that? He said, the husband shall be the head of his wife, and he shall rule over her. But also, when you're married, it's also in the Bible, when you're married, your body does not belong to yourself. you're together one flesh, and that's for both spouses. It's not just that the man possesses and owns the woman. I don't even know, that's not really what God meant. But like, your body is no longer your own, and he says that to the man, and he says it to the woman. Both, you're joining together one flesh, you're becoming something together, and it's supposed to last lifelong unto eternity. And and all the other stuff I said before about St. Paul. And again, this isn't from God, it's from St. Paul. He said that that the young widows maybe be better if they married than getting into trouble. But St. Paul said that. It's not necessarily, God didn't say that. So you have to decide what you think about that. But we were made for one another, and forgiveness is important. And I see a lot of condemning, judgmental videos, like judge not lest ye be judged, for as you judge so shall I judge you, right? Isn't that it? So it's hard not to. I mean, we have to rebuke and criticize and stuff. I think that's important to say, no, that's not, I disagree. That's the rebuking of things. This strong rebuking just means strong disapproval. If you didn't, you don't want to look it up there, that's what it means. But does that mean that there's no forgiveness? I mean, sometimes forgiveness is, okay, you were wronged by somebody. In terms of couples, you break up, you go your separate ways. You can forgive it, but that doesn't mean you have to get back together. And sometimes, like the grounds for divorce in Matthew is sexual immorality. That's from the Gospel of Matthew, and he says the one grounds for divorce is sexual immorality. And so sometimes they can't patch that up. Sometimes some people do. One spouse cheats on the other and they can patch it up. It's probably easier to patch it up if the man cheats on the woman than it is if the woman cheats on the man. There's just something about the dynamics of the relationship where I think it's just gonna be hard for a man to get over that his wife cheated on him with another man. It may be an easier thing to get over if a man cheats on his wife, because of the hardness of their hearts in the past. God did allow for a man to have, or maybe he didn't allow it, but he never intended. One man, one woman is what he intended, but in the past, in the Old Testament, men used to have multiple wives, but it was never acceptable for God for one woman to have a harem of husbands. So maybe that has something to do with the dynamics of that. I think it does. But we have to decide for ourselves, and I don't doubt that there are some marriages where, like people did stay together and worked it out, which is great for people who can do it. I know people, like that are still together. I think 3 right off the top of my head, 3 couples where I know that they cheated on each other. And there's 4. Now I got 4. 4 different couples I know where they cheated on each other, and 2 of them, their marriages aren't so good. 5, I just got 5. Man, people cheat. There are 5 couples I know of where there's marital infidelity, and it's not good. You know what I mean? Like, they're still together, so they're toughing it through. As me recording this video, they're toughing it. They're still together, but I don't know. I don't want their marriages. I know that. And yeah, I mean, what do you have with somebody if you can't trust them? Like they give their body to another person. How can you trust them? I mean, I've broken up over that. I've been cheated on. I broke up over that. I'm like, no, we can't patch it up. And there's a lot of begging and crying, and her knowing that it was a mistake and begging for even years afterwards, after we broke up, trying to get me back. No, it's not happening. I made the mistake of not even being cheated on, but you break up with somebody and try and get back together and it doesn't work. I think maybe when people break up, I don't know, maybe you just break up. I'm just one guy, I can only talk, from what I see and from my own experience, which is limited. But in my own experience, there's nobody I broke up with that I want to get back together with. I don't have the one that got away, know. So then again, I'm not down on love. I champion it. That was one of my monikers I used to use on YouTube on my old version of Extreme Narcissism TV. I said, I'm Scott Franklin Reed, champion of love, and one of many, because I do. I mean, it's the glue that helps people together. I mean, I spent this whole video telling you that the divide and conquer strategy is so that you have a country full of people, you have nations worldwide where people aren't in love with each other, so that they don't stand up and pray against forces of darkness and be willing to lay down their lives for each other and for, you know, for their spouses as well as for their neighbors and countrymen and stuff like that, so that their families can continue, so that they can have love. It's the divide and conquer strategy. Make everybody an isolated unit and have them listen to assholes like Joe Rogan that say, love doesn't matter and it's not, it's just a thing. It's, you know what I mean? For years I've seen that bozo downplay love and have guests on that talk, well, the science of it is actually blah, blah, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. And they're liars. And who's Joe Rogan? He's the guy that told you to take drugs, told you you haven't lived unless you've had a psychedelic experience where you can disassociate and be influenced by demons. But anyway, I'm just saying, I guess I'm saying don't be down on love. And forgiveness is really important. You have to be able to forgive people, but it doesn't also mean that you have to get back together for them, and just because you're lonely, like, I'll forgive them because of how horrible they were to me. No, you know, it's bad, you know, don't go back together. You know, sometimes people try to make it work anyway. I've also heard this from the people that cheated on each other that stayed together. I've heard these very words multiple times. Well, we could get divorced, but it'd be split in half or nothing. At least what we have each other, and we hate each other, but why would we want to divorce and split half or nothing? Look how the world is. That sucks, but they're living it. That's their choice. I hope they get into heaven, because it'll be way better up there than it'll be to go to hell. You know, imagine having your life tied to somebody and you hate them and they cheated on you and all this shit, and then you die and God's like, yeah, I don't know you. That's awful. So I would say pray to God for help. Pray to God for a mate. There's not a better matchmaker than God, and yet you know that we have free will, so you know, maybe it's like part of our lives, if you want to go out and choose a mate, that you're supposed to be doing something, not just sitting there praying for God to send you somebody. You know, like, we're to go out into the world and do these things too. You know, flirt and get rejected, and maybe it'll be on somebody's phone and you'll be embarrassed, but you know, if you're honest and sincere, those videos show up too, where some rotten bitch or some asshole tries to make a video and say, look at this, look at how they're trying to flirt with me, and they try to humiliate somebody using their phone for hitting on them, for trying to, you know, to approach them. And then the person making the video humiliating another person just looks like a fool, and they get shamed away from social media. Maybe sometimes they even delete the post because, you know, you know, someone's honest and comes up and tries to flirt with them, and they're like, how dare you try to talk to me? And then it backfires on the person. And so, you know, I would just say be honest and sincere and true, and know that everybody's got a phone in their hand, so maybe somebody's going to try and make... I would say just don't be afraid of it. Don't even be afraid of the humiliation, because if you know that you're coming, you know, like, how are you approaching somebody? Are you approaching them in an honest, sincere way, the best you know how? If they want to make a social media post about it, and I don't know how, I mean, really, how common is this? It's probably mostly not happening. It's a threat that's being kept alive, where you try to flirt with somebody and then they're going to use their phone to humiliate you. That's just a fear and an intimidating thing to try and keep you away from flirting with somebody. Oh, well, what if I flirt and then she, you know, becomes embarrassing texts where somebody puts it in a video compilation, or somebody you tried to flirt and it failed. Fuck it, do it anyway. So what? Move on. You know, whatever. I would say it's, you know, it's worth the risk. It's just, how are you approaching somebody to flirt with them? Be honest about it, but don't be sexual about it. Because I've seen some weird stuff, and you may have seen these things too. The one I remember is like an Asian guy. He's like, he had an American accent, I think, and he's like, hey babe, you want to bang? And she's like, get out of here. And she's recording the whole thing on her phone, and the guy's just shameless about it because he just doesn't know any better. And he's like some kind of mental defective, poor guy. And he's like, no, and she's like, do you want me to call the cops? He's like, yeah, do it. Go ahead, I'm down. I just want you to know I'm serious about this. Like, we should bang. And, you know, and you can't see what the girl looks like but you can see what the guy looks like, and yeah, she shouldn't bang him. He's not. Looks just like some kind of nerd guy with glasses. He's like Asian or something. And he's like, "Come on, baby," and it's not how you talk to women. And if that's your approach to women, I hope they all tell you no, because that's not how you talk to somebody. You don't just say, "Hey, you want to bang?" Even though I know that for handsome guys that works. They do. They'll just say, "Hey, you want to bang?" And the girl's like, "Okay." And usually drinks and drugs can be involved. Yeah, people do stupid shit, but not everybody can get away with that. You have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, "Is somebody gonna go?" You know what I mean? Like, it's just dumb. You saw that? Did you see that video? There's a whole bunch like that, where people just, like, no, you should. And it's also, you see handsome guys failing at that too, and the women have it on their phone. And the guy says some awful thing, and then the woman's like, "No, let's just get out of here." He's like, "Yeah, but all the things," and they flex, and the girl's like, "Get out of here." Good. But anyway, that's not most people. I think that you just see a couple of videos, and a lot of that stuff is used to intimidate masses of people. And we're made to pair up, and there's all this stuff of like, well, if you don't have the money or the means or the resources, you shouldn't even try to flirt. Well, when everybody is being kept broke and they're doing this on purpose and nobody has money, does that mean you shouldn't go for it because you're not, making like $300,000 a year or something, which is probably what it's going to take to be acceptable as a mate to anyone? And that stuff where they say, like you shouldn't even try to have a woman if you don't have yourself established. They're taking away the ability for people to establish each other. I think a lot of people, what's happening is that the only chance you're going to have is if you would pair up with somebody, and then you can both work really hard to have nothing, but at least you would have each other. And instead what they're saying is, you shouldn't even try if you don't have anything. And the women are being encouraged to like not even give a guy a chance. Like, nobody's gonna fucking have nothing. That's what they're doing to us. Does that mean that you should also be down on love? It's fucking stupid. So I know I said fuck to you, but come on, it's dumb. Like, all we're gonna have soon is each other, and they're trying to take that away from us. Bullshit. So anyway, I'm just not gonna be down on love. I think that a world full of people that loved each other, that both had nothing, is better than everybody being a lone, isolated, Brzezinski, Robotoid, bio unit, universal basic income, living stipend, smart city, loser, reject, divided and conquered idiot. No, it'd be better that if you had nothing else, you had love. And if you prayed to God, the two of you together, maybe you'd have something. Maybe God would provide for us. He said, look at how the birds don't worry about tomorrow. How much more do I care about you than those birds? And look at what they have. God knows what we need. And we know that we need to pray. And you should still pray for the things that you need. Even though you should say, I know, Lord, that I pray to you and you said that you would take care of me, but I still got to pray anyway, right? You should have that kind of faith, the faith that moves mountains. I don't know how you develop that. A lot of praying is going to feel like leaving messages on God's answering machine and you're waiting for him to call you back. There's a bunch of prayers in the Psalter that have waiting for God or waiting on God in the title. There's at least 3 of them, I think. And it's in the words of the Psalter. The Psalter showing us, if we're not sure how to pray, refer to the Psalter and look at how Prophet King David prayed to God. Look, he got a lot of stuff accomplished by praying to God, and not all the Psalter is attributed to him. But it informs us on how to pray, how people prayed in the past, and we can use some of those Psalms in the Psalter to pray for all the world, like Psalm 25, which may be 26 in your version of the Bible, whichever version you have. But Psalm 25, prayer for all of life, that's a good psalm. You can pray that one. If you're not sure how to pray for yourself, read Psalm 25 and say, wow, I can pray like that for myself. I can pray like that for the whole world. You can change it from me and I to us to we. Pray Psalm 25. Yeah, so anyway, I'm saying don't be down on love. I'm sorry I said expletive deleted to you, but I do believe that the apostles went around speaking to people in a way that they thought that they could get through to them. And I don't doubt that, when St. Paul was saying dung, he was saying like shit in Greek to them. Like, this is shit. Don't be down on love. It's what they want us to do. The globalists don't want you to love each other and don't want you to think that you're worthy or capable of love or that anybody would love you. And also keep in mind that, you know, a long time ago when I was little, there was a lot of funny looking couples. They found each other, they found love, and they weren't beautiful. And I also saw couples that were kind of odd. One person was beautiful and the other person was like, how'd she get him? How'd he get her? People used to fall in love and stay together. There wasn't no internet back then. I think that has a lot to do with it. So don't be down on love, and I thank you. I hope that this has been a rewarding experience for you to be around this long in a video so that I can tell you something I really truly and sincerely believe in, is that do not be down on love, and try and get it through to your skull, to your heart, that God's love permeates all things. You can lean into it, you can turn into it, or you can turn away from it. Don't turn away from it. Don't be down on love. And, you know, don't be a simp. Don't be a fool. Don't take advantage of. Don't give your money to cam girls. It's not helping them or you. Don't think you're going to be the one that's going to get her. Not that people watching my videos would even do that shit. I mean, like, I can't imagine that I have one subscriber that's still giving money away to digital prostitutes. You know that it's digital harlotry, right? And don't be down on love, because, you know, if World Economic Forum is telling us you will live in a pod, you will eat the bugs and own nothing, I think you should fight against that by believing in love and believing that, you know, that there might be somebody for you even without money. Oh, not yet. You know what I mean? It's just the same trick that they do these things to women to keep them from pairing up with anybody, saying nobody's good enough. Well, they do the same thing to men, telling them they're not good enough because you don't have enough resources. Look at how popular gambling is. Expletive deleted. Yeah, they're taking everything away, getting countless young men or actually, they probably have all the numbers on the men that are gambling. They're accounted for a young man because of digital technologies. Who are willing to risk everything just to get anything, because it just seems like impossible that they could get anywhere or have anything. Maybe you should try praying to God. Maybe include prayer to God, and, you know, and say, well, you know, like all this gambling shit, they're trying to make us to do devil's deals all the time. In some way, this digital gambling stuff that's being encouraged for young people, saying you don't have a chance. Hey, maybe you want to go into Running Man or Hunger Games or Ninja Eliminator where people die, or Squid Games or whatever. This gambling shit that's leading into the Coliseum shit again. Maybe I can win it all if I can just survive, whatever. So this gambling stuff is getting us to make covenants and devil's deals and contracts and stuff like that, I believe. And maybe you should pray to God. Not pray to God with your gambling. You know, if you want to pray to God about winning a lot of money, pray that somebody would give you a lottery ticket as a gift or something, if you want to pray for shit like that. But, you know, I don't know. You have to decide about the gambling. But you know it's a trap, right? Like, they want it everywhere because it's evil. And, you know, you can watch videos on how the lottery is a scam. And you can even watch videos on how it was, you know, like, crimes where mob guys were like influencing the wins of the lottery, how they would fake they would cheat lotteries, they cheat the lottery and then take that money and use it for them and clean it up and do all that shit. And they were just like fixing the lottery, you know, from state to state in America. And I'm sure it's happened all over the world. So yeah, you know what I mean? It's gambling. But now they have this more overt gambling where you watch somebody's video and they tell you to gamble because they got paid money to tell you to gamble. And, you know, I don't know, I would say pray to God. That's not a gamble. Pray to God and, you know, change your ways. And don't be down on love, whether it's men or women watching these, because I know from my subscribers that they're both. And it's not just old men. My analytics said it was 100% men, 50 to 60, 55 to 60 some years old. And I was like, that's bullshit. I'm looking at my subscribers. It's a lot of young men with their own pictures, with their boldness of having a picture of themselves. And then there's a couple women in there. And I can tell from the comments that it's actual comment from a woman and not a robot or whatever. And it's easy for me to keep up with my comments. There's not a lot of them. And, you know, 400 people is 400 people. So they matter to me that you would watch my videos. So bless you right now for watching, and pray to God for help. and pray for me, because I don't know, I don't think I know anybody that prays for me. I know people that pray, but I don't think I'm in their prayers. So, bless you. If you want to pray for me, go ahead. Pray that my videos would be better, so that they would help people, so that we all get into heaven. Because you never know who's going to watch one of your videos. Maybe my videos are crap, but there might be like a kernel of something that's true in them, which I suspect that there is a lot of truth in my videos with me messing it up, that it could get out to somebody who has a wider audience, who sees one of my videos, even though I never get credit for it, and they would be inspired to do something that reaches a lot of people, and it would save lives, save souls, and make people's lives better, and help love, which comes from God. It's the most, I would say, probably one of the most defining things about God is his love for us. Don't forget that, and pray to God. Keep in mind that two people gathered together in prayer, God's with them. He said, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered together in prayer, know that I am with you. Know that I'm with them. Pray to God. Maybe get a prayer buddy. Dudes can pray to God for stuff. You can pray against the plans of the globalists. Did you know that? They hate it when you do that. Pray to God. Don't be down on love. Love. Never give up on love. Champion love. Be a champion of love. Amen.